2020 has been a long and arduous year for many. The devastating effects of the pandemic have been felt throughout the nation and the rest of the world. When the lockdown is lifted on the 2nd of December, England will be following a 3-tiered system.
Go back instead to a regional tiered approach, applying the toughest measures where COVID is most prevalent. And while the previous local tiers did cut the number and cut the R number, they were not quite enough to reduce it below 1. So the scientific advice, I'm afraid, is that as we come out, our tiers need to be made tougher.
While schools and other educational facilities have been allowed to remain open, small businesses such as non-essential shops, tattoo parlours and hairdressers have been forced to close their doors once again.
I've got a good clientele. I'm really lucky. I've had my business for 13 years. So I feel like I would recover, because obviously my clients want their hair done. It's a good industry to be in, really, because people always want to look good, especially after a long time of not having a hairdo. So I feel like my business will recover, but it's still very worrying. Whilst we were in lockdown, I had to source PPE, so I had to get visors, masks, gloves, screens, cleaning stuff. I ended up getting quite a bit.
I've been tattooing for 16 years now, and I've never been forced to not work for longer than 2 weeks. The first lockdown, which forced me to shut my studio from the 23rd of March to the 23rd of July, brought anxiety, stress and the chaos to my life. Not knowing what was around the corner was one of the hardest things to deal with. Though the government rolled out incredible grant schemes and the lockdown loans as well, that was very, very helpful. It was the vague uncertainty and lack of guidelines for my industry in particular that I found myself having to battling my own way through. It took me a full 2 weeks to reschedule all of my clients. I have a 6-month waiting list, and it took me 2 weeks to rebook those all by 4 months, which took my bookings into mid next year to late next year.
A second lockdown has been hard for many, but even harder on our local businesses working hard to stay afloat. When the lockdown is lifted, the encouragement is to stay safe but shop local. That's the latest. I'm Alice Howe.